I always liked history. And so I knew that March on Washington was going to be a historical event, so I went.
It's all been a progression, a movement that just keeps going.
We are requesting all citizens to move into Washington, to go by plane, bus, any way that you can get there. We are pushing for jobs, housing, desegregated schools.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
We are not an organization or a group of organizations. We are not a mob. We are the advance guard of a massive moral revolution.
I mean, people were just pouring out of bus stations, of train stations.
Into the area that I was assigned to came Malcolm X. I'll never forget what he said, because he was not supposed to be there. What he said was, I could not come. That this was a historic occasion. There was something about that moment when he was talking about why he was there that made the march even more significant.
I knew by name almost all the people who were speaking. One was Martin Luther King, and then I do remember John Lewis. He is 2 years older than me. I was 21, he was 23. And I said, he is up there as the leader of SNCC. And what have I done?
So they're only allowing 25 protesters on every single bus in order to ensure proper social distancing. And also march organizers telling us that they will be handing out hand sanitizer, masks, and also gloves during this march. Let me tell you, it is expected to be a large one.
Taking place on the 57th anniversary of the 1963 March on Washington, where Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech.
I think it's important to go down to D.C. to show that Black Lives Matter and what's happening in America right now, same thing that's happened for hundreds of years, is unacceptable.
Today's march is organized by Al Sharpton and his National Action Network.
Freedom Now movement, hear me. We are requesting all citizens to move into Washington, any way that you can get there. We are pushing for jobs, housing, desegregated schools. This is an urgent request. Please join. Go to Washington.
When the dynamics of the March on Washington began to reveal itself, it became a very threatening concept, and no place articulated that fear more precisely than did J. Edgar Hoover, who was the head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The greatest target for him was Martin King. He was visceral. You just mentioned King's name, he would become epileptic.
We were not
naive about what the FBI was capable of doing. And so we had been told there's a very good possibility that you're going to have these people injected into the march to discredit us.
We found out after we got there that there was a strong possibility that Dr. King was not going to speak. We had bomb threats all day, every day. There were also threats on his life, threats of violence if he showed up.
So that this struggle with the government was a big force about getting the march organized.
The March on Washington office was in a dilapidated but functional building on 130th Street in Harlem. We had nothing by the way of technology. We had lots of volunteers in the office, snail mailing things out. I think the biggest expenditure made was for the sound system. And that was because everybody on that mall had to hear every minute of every speech.
Here comes the kicker. You ready? Here's the fact that I heard but haven't confirmed. I heard that when Martin Luther King stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and said he had a dream, he was speaking into a PA system that Bill Cosby paid for. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I have the pleasure to present.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. This nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today have a dream that one day, down In Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted. And every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is a faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. Not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.